Was it your very first watch? You know, you had all this excitement and actually interacted with Border Patrol.
Explain why they wanted us there, you and I specifically.
We found out later why we were called is that Heidi and I were there, and there were women, there were young girls in this group that they had apprehended. And so to protect the guys that are border volunteers, they called our group in so we could stand there and just protect. Basically, we were protecting the guys.
So that they don't make any improper allegations against our people of mistreatment or inappropriate conduct or anything like that.
Right. So we didn't really know that at first. We just thought we were playing military. But I don't know. I guess it sounds kind of funny, but it just really was so exhilarating. And so after that, they call us into base, and all of the the ATVs, everybody, all of the groups are coming in, and Heidi's still scanning the horizon as we're driving because it's addicting.
You can't put it down. You're like, you got this thermal and you're bouncing around an ATV and you can't put it down.
Well, she spots just one. How many did you spot? 3 that ran across the road in front of us. So we all hop out and going through the brush and looking, and they actually got away from us. We never found them, but it takes a while to get to see it. 2-legged cow. Yeah, 6-legged cow. Very well could have been stragglers. It could have been, and but you don't always apprehend them. That's the thing. So we all got back into camp, and it was just really cool. Everybody was all excited because there had been a couple of really big groups that had been spotted on the other side of the interstate, and we had some apprehensions on our side, and so everybody's in, and they're just all jacked up, and the camaraderie is what I would imagine is very similar to a military group and that sort of thing. So we went, and we did not stay at the camp. We had rented a hotel, and so we go back, and I don't know, well, actually that night they asked us if we wanted to join, so that was really cool. They thought at first we were going to come in and we were just going to be reporters, right, or elected officials, politicians. They didn't have a very high expectation for us. But we get there and we step out of the car in our snake boots and our camo, and they're like, wow. Anyway, so it's been really great. That was in November. We both joined, and I did not go in the watch in January, but Heidi did. And then Dale and I went in March. He joined the same time I did, but he had not had a chance to go. I think he was jealous. I had so much fun. But so the thing is that when you go, you hear the stories, you see the things on the news, and you hear politicians bantering back and forth. But what you see when you get there is life-changing, because these people are living in a war zone. They're living through an invasion. There is not a day goes by that 10, 20, 50 illegals aren't crossing this ranch. It's constant. They don't always get caught, don't always get apprehended. We don't know what happens to a lot of them, even if they are apprehended. And Heidi will show you some pictures of some that don't make it. But you're being lied to. You're being lied to through the media. You're being lied to by your representatives, by your elected officials, certainly by the national government. But Austin, you deserve better from Austin. You deserve better from your local elected officials. Houston is the #1 human smuggling, child porn, sex trade in the country. And they head in from McAllen, straight through Fat Furious, straight up 59 to Houston. Now there are some that do go to Dallas or they go to San Antonio, but Houston is the number one. They don't all stay in downtown Houston either, so all of these surrounding communities, we've got a problem. We have a serious problem. How often do you ever hear about those problems on the news, on the local news? Do you ever hear talk about the child porn that we've got going on here? Or the slave trade? And they ship them from Houston into places like Cleveland or Toledo, Ohio is one of the main places where they're sent to. We discovered that when they found those 3 women that were being held, I don't know, a year or 2 ago. So, it's so much more than just we have an open border. We've got really bad guys crossing over that want to do really bad things. And it's going to take all of us to stand up and make sure everybody knows what's going on and make sure that they do something about it. Because I mean it. And I told the Senate committee when Heidi and I went to testify a couple weeks ago, it is your moral obligation to be protecting the citizens of Texas. So that's all I have. And there's a question for you.
Where were y'all on the border? Were y'all?
Okay, good point, and I'm sorry. We actually go to Fat Furious. It's about 70 miles in from the border. But they think that they're catching some, and they do. They catch some drugs, and but there's an awful lot that still filters around that checkpoint that they don't ever catch. Yes.
So are they not stopping them on the border because it's politically incorrect, or are they just?
We do know the Border Patrol basically has been told to stand down. If there's anything really egregious going on, they may stop them. But they don't have the personnel. There's not enough personnel. They may have, 2 or 3 agents to cover several miles along the border. They can't possibly catch it all. And I tell you, there are so many spies on the other side. They know exactly where every agent is at all times. I mean, they even have spies at this rest area watching the ranch. They know a lot.
They dial into all the radio traffic.
Yeah.
They're high-tech too.
Oh, yeah.
They're they're better funded than the Texas Border Volunteers, and they're better funded than the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
The cartels are.
Yeah. Now, and I'll tell you, Governor Dewhurst has done a lot. He did put through the funds, and they bought, I don't know the name of the boat, but they have
6 patrol boats.
But they're gunners,
It's the Texas Navy.
Yes.
Yeah, and they do patrol the Rio Grande, and they say that's helped a lot because used to be what happened is they'd have their little patrol boat and they'd be shot at. So they'd go out and they'd have to run back in on shore because they were being shot at with automatic weapons. So now they have this big gun ships, and they can.
1,000 rounds a minute, folks. It's impressive.
I want to go. I want to ride on that boat. That's my next goal. It is a game. But I tell you, if you see what these ranchers go through day in and day out, I mean, they step out of their door, they don't know what they're going to find out in their yard every morning. They don't know. And Heidi will show you some pictures, but the ranch where we go, they have 3 German Shepherds and another dog that looks like a pit bull. It's not, but some kind of Italian dog.
Yeah.
And they ride in a little side-by-side ATV with the owner. And man, they can smell illegal, and they've already caught like 110, 115 this year.
They have their own apprehension count.
Yeah, they do.
The dogs are called
the best team.
Oh, yeah.
They have their own
EST. So
what is a range?
Well, the military uses them.
Called Border Patrol.
And do they come out?
They have Texas Border Volunteers, you know, not a lot of people know this, but they have a very good working relationship with DPS, with Border Patrol, with the sheriffs. And Border Patrol really, really appreciates what they're doing. The individual agents are good guys, mostly. I mean, and there is some corruption within the ranks, that's true. Most of that is more towards the border. But these guys here in Falfurrias, they are working their tails off. And they really appreciate what TBV does. It helps them. But Ms. Vickers has them on speed dial. She just calls them up, gives them a GPS location, and they're almost always there in just a few minutes. And the dogs don't let them get too far. They're trained to treat them.
Do all the rangers around there, are they part of the Texas Border Volunteers? Or is it just one big ranch?
There's 2 ranches that we work on. One ranch, we've got up to part of the King Ranch. The King Ranch has their own security, so we do not go there. And then some of the other ranches, they don't allow even Border Patrol on there, except after a long delay. So either cartel owns those ranches, or they're in cahoots with them, or they're just sympathetic. But, you know, it is illegal for the cartels to own these ranches, but I'm betting my bottom dollar that they've got them.
Somebody's getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, but we have so many politicians in Austin that just are fighting it every step of the way. So keep that in mind when you have a chance to talk to your guy. You're at Thompson, most of you. Hammer him. Make sure he knows what's really going on. I tell him every chance I get.
Okay, as y'all have heard, I'm Dale Holtz, and she drug me out there. Wasn't my fault. But Texas has a long history of borderers, and I consider Texas Border Volunteers, DPS, and Border Patrol out there to all the aspects of being a Texas borderer. Back before this state was even a country, we had borderers who were legends. We had Jim Bowie from Georgia. We had Dev Smith from New York. We had Henry Carnes with a K from Tennessee. These guys were legends. Every boy in Texas. Uh-oh.
Crying out from Tennessee?
That's true. I love your border.
Yeah.
All right. And Crockett reporter. I'll get to that in a minute. These guys were legends to every kid in Texas. They wanted to grow up, they aspired to be these guys. You know, they were their heroes. They didn't have baseball, they didn't have football, they didn't have any of that stuff. These were people who protected them. They would go out in the wild, and they would fight Indians, they would fight bandits, they would fight against federal oppression, Mexican federal oppression. And that's what they did, they protected Texas throughout. Now, back then, you know, they wore the fur caps and the fur jackets and the leather pants and such. We attire ourselves a little bit differently today. But their job was to go out there and protect Texas by putting a bullet in something. We don't do that today. If you think the Texas Border Volunteers go out and we protect the border, we do not protect the border. That is the job of the Border Patrol. If you think that we are to protect the citizens of Texas, that's not our job. That's the job of DPS. But what the Texas Border Volunteers do is we witness. We witness as citizens, we witness as Texans what's going on down there, so we can come back and bring that story back to you guys. And it's a tough job. You know, we come out here and, you know, Mary's exuberance is incredible, and it scared me. Because I go, wow, you know, do you know how dangerous it is what you're doing? And she's like, yeah, I know, but I don't care. And you're coming with me next time. And I'm like, oh my God. So I see that. And when I came back from my trip in March, Must have had 20 people go, you know what, I want to go out there, I want to join, I want to go down there. And I want to serve on a border watch, do night watches, and watch what's going on. Well, that's great. And anybody who can, should. But I want to give you the true story of what goes on out there. I go out there and my handle is Tall Kid.
It's what?
Tall Kid. I got that in Saudi Arabia when I was just like 19, 20 years old, you know, because I just showed up at Dawran, Saudi Arabia, and started working there with McDonnell Douglas working F-15s. And when I got there, they didn't even know my name, so they just go, hey, you Tall Kid. And it stuck with me. When they asked me to join Texas Board of Volunteers, they go, what's your handle? I'm like, blank, can't think of anything. And then it's like, okay, Tall Kid. So that's what I got. Of course, we got Heidi here, Crockett, and we got Mary here's Bowie. Great names. I wish I had one like that. But I'm okay with mine. The reason I'm dressed like this tonight is to show you this is what we look like when we go out in the brush. We muster up around 6:30. We talk about what we're going to do. We get our assignments. We have positions mapped all over the ranches so that when we go out to a hide, they know where we are. So that when we call back to headquarters through our radios, they know right where to send Border Patrol. Or if there's a problem, that's what they need to do. I carry a radio right here. Just a little tight. And it's got pretty good range on there, and that's what you need, because phone reception doesn't exist out there for us. Satellite phones do, but not these. We've got digital camo. If you're wearing this and you ain't moving, you can't be seen in dark. This is honestly what the military wears it.
Even in night vision.
Even in night vision scopes. You stay still, it's hard to see.
We tested it.
We have during the day, we have our binoculars, and at night we have either night vision or thermals.
Dale,
Yes.
when you were talking about what you were wearing, can I show what not to do?
Sure.
This is what you don't do.
Yeah.
My first trip out there, didn't have all the gear, and I went out and bought some tactical pants. You know, it's got all the proper pockets. Black shows up like a black blob out there at night in the brush.
Right.
When this blends, it's really, really light out there. There's a lot of moonlight, and of course all the scrub is going to be a light tan and a light green. So for someone like me, when we were out there in November, she was dressed in green and black camo, and I was dressed in all black, thinking I was like stealth ninja. And you could see me a mile away, like a moving black blob. So this is what not to do. Dark and solid colors are what not to do. Exactly what he's done. And I do have this now. My second trip out, I had the digital camo, and she's right. She's in night vision. If you don't move, you can't be seen.
Right. And as she mentioned, we have our snake boots. I'll show you guys out there. These are a must. They don't even let you come out there if you don't have snake boots, because there's so many rattlesnakes out there.
What if you get a tall snake?
Jump higher.
Yeah, are they waterproof also?
Yes, mine are waterproof, but they're snake proof, so that's a necessary thing. And there ain't a whole lot of water out there, so, you know, this is.
And to answer your question, I wanted full body armor, but they don't make it.
And, you know, and to set up things, you know, we have our enhanced vision equipment, we have our radios, carry knives. Because sometimes you can't get to your gun. We carry our guns, we carry them concealed, that's our rules. Other groups out there will carry long guns, shotguns, rifles, etc. Those aren't our rules, and the reason why is the Border Patrol likes it a lot better if we don't look like a threat to the illegal aliens or to the Border Patrol. So that's what we do. But we do go armed all the time. And I'll tell you a little story about why that is. You know, I said there's lots of danger out there. She scares me because she just wants to go. And it's like, you got to make sure you understand the danger. We've got rattlesnakes out there. In our headquarters, on the ceiling, on boards, we have snake skins all over the place. These are big rattlers. They tell us not to shoot them, but Linda will come out and shoot them. Ranger's well. We've got feral hogs out there. On my last watch, I watched about 10 of them cross about 50 yards away from me. Those things will tear you up. We've got cows, you know, they're not all that dangerous. But we have deer, nagals, which are a type of antelope that were brought over from Africa.
India.
India, excuse me, okay. And we have coyotes, four-legged kind. And we have mountain lions out there on that ranch. There's at least 2 of them that I know of. They don't usually bother anybody, but I ain't dependent on that. I got a gun. So, with all that said, those are all the animals and such. And we're wearing our guns and got our knives. And when I was on my watch, I think was it our last night on the watch? Our last night on the watch, you know, I've been tagging along and we've been spotting a few here and a few there. So we're down to, down there by the gate. And we're sitting out, and Mary is like sitting where Heidi is, and I'm sitting over here, we're in camp chairs, and there's lots of brush over there, and there's a branch that comes down here, and then there's a gap there, and such. And, you know, you sit out there for 8 hours, and she's looking at down by the rest area, and down the fence line and such, and I'm looking back to a crawl that the illegals like to go under. And we're just out there, and she spotted like 10 of them coming over a fence. She watched the car get stopped right on the interstate where we could see it. And when the Border Patrol stopped them, 10 guys at least hopped out, hopped the fence, and took off. So she's radioing that in. I'm like, what? You know, I'm trying to look where she's looking. And then I was looking at my scope, because I have a night vision, and I saw this one guy running this way. And then he went down. And I'm like, God, he must have went down behind a hill. You know, he's gone. So, you know, I looked in there for a long time and never did see him again. Or I thought. So we're sitting out there. We're getting towards the end of our shift. And I'm looking through the monoscope, night vision, like here. I'm just watching. I'm looking, scanning. And I hear something to my right. I'm like, you know, I got open field in front of me. From the fence to me is open field. I do it like this. And I'm like, oh my God. There's this coyote, this big guy, the guy who went down. He's coming directly at me, dressed in camo. He's got a headscarf covering his face. And he's bearing down on me about 20 feet away. And I'm like, oh my God, you know. I went for my gun. I'm sitting down. It's 40 degrees out there. I put on overpants and did not account for that. My first mistake. I went for my knife in my boot. My pants went over my boots. Second mistake was so with that guy, I mean, he's right on me. And all I could do, because it's full moonlight out there, I just did this. So he couldn't see my face, couldn't see the moon come off my face. I went down like that, and I heard the guy run about right here, right beside me, through the gap on the other side of the branch that's hanging down. That guy was as big as I was, and he had motivation. He was fast. I'm like, oh my God, that was scary. And when he went past, I know he had to run past our Polaris out there, parked those in the woods, because that's the trail he ran down. He knew where he was going. So I radioed in and said, hey, 1+0 just ran through my position. You know, I'm a base tall kid, 1+0 went through my position. Because we never give them the actual number. It's always something plus something to tell them what the actual number was. Mary comes around the brush going, what? She never saw him. You know, he was on me so quick, I couldn't do anything.
Well, really what I was doing is I was watching his back. I started watching the woods to make sure he wasn't just out there going to shoot us or something.
The thing was, the night before we got out there, the border patrolman lost his weapon to some illegal aliens, 2 of them, that had already surrendered. They're sitting on the ground, and the border agent goes, tell me where your friends are. And he goes, okay, I'll tell you. Well, I got to show you. So they said, all right, get up, let's go. And as soon as he went to touch him, that guy went off on him. Got his gun away from him. He got the gun, and the Border Patrol agent's right there, and he shot twice. He missed both times. the border agent, which was a stocky boy himself, re-engaged this guy, and they went to fighting and scrapping. The other guy picked the gun up off the ground while the agent was subduing him, and his partner had not reacted yet to that, picked it up and lined up right on him and pulled the trigger. The gun jammed. Act of God, or Texas dirt, either one. But the gun did not go off, and they got him subdued also. That's real life. That's scary business, because they are more combative out there than they have ever been. And that's why, if you think you want to go out there, that if you want to stay in the bunkhouse, which has an air conditioning, or stay in a tent, what we did, it's over 100 degrees out there on that farm. It's 104 degrees this week. You know, so it's hot out there. It's extreme. Our bathroom broke down twice while we were out there. You know, so we didn't have a toilet for a couple of days. Our shower broke down at the end. Didn't have a shower. We went, what, 3 days without a shower. You know, that is hard stuff, and it's dangerous. Not just from the wildlife, but from the people who come across. So I admire anybody who has a heart, the gumption, and the wherewithal to get out there and do that. But make sure it's right for you. If it's not right for you to go out and do those things, not dress like this, not carry a gun, not carry a knife, not sit out there for 8 hours going, my God, when are they going to call us back in? You need to go ahead and figure out a different way. Like she says, donate some money to TBV. Find somebody who doesn't have enough equipment and help them out. I mean, night vision's like $2,100 to $2,700 just for a single piece. Thermal, that's like
10.
Yeah, it's
For
ridiculous.
used.
Yeah, for used stuff.
From the Air Force.
But they always need gear, you know. So that's my message, is not so much TBD, not so much what goes on out at the border. I'm bringing you a message from a personal perspective. You know, just we're out there to witness. And we say it's a war zone. Well, it's a war zone, WOR. Watch, observe, report. That's what we do. And they do a pretty good job. When we were out there for our 5 days on our watch, we spotted 81 illegal aliens on our ranches that we were covering. First couple nights was like, God, or the second, third night was like, we couldn't find anybody. But out of those 81, we captured 60, or we called in Border Patrol and they went and captured them. You had a house here in Pearland that had over 100 stacked up in there waiting whatever fate had in store for them. So we are not stopping anything. We are witnessing what goes on at the Texas border, what goes on in the Texas towns, and we come back and we report what we see and let you know that you need to hold your public servants accountable for this, that there is a problem, and you guys, we need to take care of that business. So that's all I had today. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Out of the percentage that you're catching, what is the OTM?
They say around 60% other than Mexican OTMs. They can be El Salvador, Guatemalan. We have a beacon out there. She'll show you a picture of it. And it's a distress beacon. And that's where if the illegals run out of water, snake bite, whatever, they can go to these big, tall beacons, press a button, Border Patrol comes and get them. There's also water tanks that strapped onto them. The language that are out there is, number 1, English. Number 2, Spanish. Number 3, Mandarin Chinese. Did they just say, well, I just want to put Chinese because it was cool? No, they did it for a reason. We have a ton of Chinese infiltrating this country. That is why those signs are in those 3 languages. We have found stuff from Pakistan, little Urdu English dictionaries. We find all kinds of trash out there. We go police during the day. We see where they're coming, where they're dropping their trash, where they're coming through. So we find all that stuff. It's a big problem. This is not, the majority is not Jose, Juan, Maria coming up and saying, I want a better life for my family, I want to come to America, I want to be an American, or I want to make enough money to send back to my family so they don't starve. There are some that do that. But the most of them are drug cartel people, criminals, people who are human traffickers that they're bringing their potential future slaves along with them. They're child porn victims. That's what's coming across this border. And our government doesn't know how to talk about the issue. All they do is say, illegal immigration, that's bad. We want to make these people out of the shadows and such. I don't want some of these people out of the shadows. I want them out of our country.
Yeah.
You know? We're Christian people. We believe in fairness and all that stuff. But I'd be danged if I'm going to allow slavers to come into my camp, or if I'm going to let druggers and criminals, cartel folks come up here unabated. What they need is a classification system and a net to catch everybody, and then they can deal with them as they come out. If they know this guy is a criminal because he has a record, catch him, do something with him. If these guys have 4 young girls, they're heading to Houston, the girls don't know what the heck they're doing there. He's a slaver. We need to find ways to classify them so that our statistics will spur the politicians onto doing the right things. Anyway, that's a long answer to your question. Anybody else? No, okay.
What do you want me to do? Are you going to leave it there so I can hit? Okay.
So you can talk.
Dan or up?
Well, while she's putting that together, when Mary invited me last November, I really jumped at the chance. It's something I've been wanting to do for years. I had even contacted Sarah Palin when she was running for vice president, and I said, your rhetoric on border security needs to change. How about I take you down to the border? Obviously, that never went anywhere, but I really had wanted to do something like this for years. So when Mary invited me, I just jumped at the chance. I couldn't let this opportunity go by. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some pictures, and I want you to experience how Mary and I did, because they're all in chronological order. And you'll see what we saw when we went on down there. Where do I go? I don't know where to go. Where do I stand?
You're standing right there.
Here in the right.
I chose the name Crockett for my handle, and I was really kind of hemming and hawing some of the guys, because you have this camaraderie, and some of the guys said, oh, you need to be pretty young because that's the name of my gun business. And that just didn't feel, don't let it run.
I know, you told me to.
No, I don't want it to run, we'll just click through it. It didn't really, I don't think, embody where my heart was and why I was out there, but Crockett did, because Crockett was not a born and bred Texan. I am not a born and bred Texan, but Crockett was so committed to Texas independence, and he was a borderer that he laid down his life. And that was something that I strive to live up to. I may not be a native Texan, but I'm more Texan than a lot of Texans are. I mean, I'm absolutely committed to the strength and prosperity and freedom of Texas, and Crockett is my example. So I thought, for a borderer, that is who I wanted to live up to. That's what I wanted to live up to, and that's why I selected that name for my handle. And it reminds me every time I'm out there, even just to get to say it, reminds me of why I'm there and what I'm doing it for. So that's where that came from. So Mary, we head on down there, and we decided, since we weren't ready to head out to the ranch, we wanted to kind of go around. We wanted to go through the Border Patrol checkpoint. You're going to see some pictures of that so that you'll see what we saw going in there with new eyes as what we thought we were going to observe, and we ended up joining the cause because it was life-changing. This separated all of the rhetoric for me. Border security is what you will see and what we're here to talk about today. The security aspects of it, the war zone aspects of it, the invasion. I know these are not politically correct terms, but that's what we're dealing with. That is entirely separate and should never enter the conversation with politicians who are debating about comprehensive immigration reform. When I hear someone like Senator Rand Paul answer a serious question from a Texan concerned about border security, and his response is, we just need unlimited work visas. I want to shake him until his brains rattle out of his ears, because I'm saying that is the problem. The magnet that you create with your unlimited work visas is what you are going to see at the end of the bodies. And what our ranchers and farmers have to live with is what is the end result of your policies when it comes to unlimited work visas.
And so what that means is he's already been in DC too long.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he's a no-go.
Well, his dad's always been open
Yeah.
border. They don't really believe in borders.
Well, this doesn't look like much, but Mary and I were driving on our way down to the checkpoint, and we knew what to look for. We had been told that the ranchers out there have, they have to fence in their cattle and like everything, but their fences are being destroyed with the foot traffic that comes through. The coyotes don't care. They cut them up, they trample them. You'll see some pictures of this. So the ranchers have been incredibly accommodating, and they have built ladders for the CT. Charlie Tango's criminal trespassers is the legal term for what these guys are, because they are all trespassing on private property. None of this is federal land, it's not state land, it's all privately owned property and has been in families' possession for generations. So the ranchers want to accommodate. It is cheaper for them to go and build fences for the amount of illegal traffic than it is for them to have to go out and repair them. Because when they have to repair a fence, that means they've already lost some cattle, the cattle's wandered out of the road, been hit by some trucks. So these are some pictures, you can go ahead and start clicking through those. These are pictures of the very sturdy fences that the ranchers have had to build and construct to accommodate the criminal trafficking.
The Heidi,
Yeah.
they don't work because the
Yeah, I was just going to get to that. While these are nice and sturdy ladders, even over the 8-foot fences, the illegals think there's a trick. So they don't want to take the ladders because they think it's an ambush site, so they still cut up and trample the fences. So go ahead and click through a few more. This is what Mary and I saw. This is our very first afternoon there. Go ahead. All right, this is some fence. Now what you saw was some fence that was still intact. This is what it looks like after they tear it up. You can't hardly see it. You can see where the posts are. The posts are kind of leaning down into the ground, and the barbed wire is all over the ground. So now you've got cattle coming through, and we're right there on the highway. Go ahead and keep clicking through.
So you are on 281?
Yes. Yeah, this is 281. This is on our way to the Border Patrol checkpoint. Go ahead and keep clicking. All this fence is down. That means the traffic that's come through there.
I was there that.
And what I just said was, this is what happens when you don't put ladders. The whole fence is just kind of caved down. So it's wide open. Go ahead and click to the next one. That says PACT numbers, utilize left lane, all other vehicles stay right. And we did find out at one point what PACT
So that's the truckers, the international truckers?
Yeah, and so we're just taking pictures, so you'll see what we see on the way to the port. Go ahead.
Now, Heidi tried to get arrested here, but
I got my camera going. I'm all ready to resist. I got my Fourth Amendment handy. I've even got it pulled up on my phone. I've got my Fourth Amendment pulled up on my phone, so if I get any hassle, I can give it a word. So this is us. We're headed. Mary's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. Oh, I'm trying. Oh. Selfie. Okay, this is the Falfurrias checkpoint. They advertise this. This is how many drugs they've gotten to date. This is how many aliens that they've encountered to date. Of course, this is what they've apprehended. at this checkpoint. This doesn't include what happens out on the private property, nor does it include all of the ones that got away.
This is November 16th last year.
Right.
Only 1697.
But this is 70 miles inside the border, and this is one smuggling corridor.
They all know where this checkpoint is.
Yeah.
There are tons of county roads surrounding this that they go down.
Okay, go back.
Yes.
That's our headquarters, where she just had a picture. You see the ATV vehicles. That is a tack shed for the ranchers out there. Doc and Linda Vickers are the hosts and the executive members, board members for Texas Border Volunteers, which grew out of the Minutemen movement. They have a stellar reputation. Doc Vickers travels to Washington, D.C. He travels to Austin all the time trying to raise awareness. And they have a great rapport, as Mary mentioned, with DPS, Border Patrol, because of their professionalism. Go ahead, keep clicking.
I see Mary's car.
All right, this is the distress signal you just heard Dale talking about. Keep going, we'll get a little closer.
Yeah, it's water.
There are the three languages. If you had to guess what that third language is, you may not have immediately gone to Mandarin Chinese, but that just is an indication of the levels of traffic that are flowing through there that need to have a sign in Mandarin. It's practically Grand Central Station out there. Go ahead, keep going. Here's Mary's gear. Oh, they provide water out there, and the Border Patrol will always go around and stomp water. The distress signal sends a blue light and a radio signal to Border Patrol, and they can avail themselves of water because, as you'll see, many of the bodies that they discover later are usually next to an empty water jug.
Yeah, they come out twice a day, put ice water in those things.
Isn't it just, I mean, it's like those...
Yeah.
That's what they tell us every time we go out there, a new person.
Really?
It's not really ice water,
It's
just
not.
plain water.
It's just plain water, but there is water there. They do restock. That's one of their duties.
Yeah.
All right, this is Mary and Polecat and Warthog. They all got great ideas and funny stories about how they got their name. Mary is Bowie. You've got Polecat to the left, and you've got Warthog to the right. And these were who we hosted Watch with. This is who we went out with that weekend, that first weekend. Here's me, dressed completely inappropriately. Dude, I am like a neon light out there in the dark. Okay, go ahead. I don't even know why I did this. I think it's just because it is so vastly wide open. There is nothing to stop the traffic. I don't even remember why I took that. Just
Landmines.
go ahead.
That'll be next.
Okay, this is, what did they call these? Did they call them a hide? These are called, the trees themselves are called mots. And the illegals, go ahead and just keep clicking through these, because these are just some random pictures.
Hide's not the exact word, but I can't think of it.
Yeah, but this is where they come and take a rest. The coyotes take them there, they discard clothing, keep going. They discard water bottles. You can just see the junk piling up. It's been there for a long time. These are bags, these are t-shirts, toothpaste, because they take care of their personal hygiene out there. They might be there for a while. All those are water bottles. Okay, now this, you heard Dale mention that he was posted to watch a crawl. This is what a crawl looks like. Instead of going over the fence, they'll crawl under it on their belly. You can see the little pathway that they scoot out with their bellies. And they go back to the same one again and again and again. And I think Linda said at one point to deter it, she put a dead animal, a dead cat out there.
With cactus last
Yeah.
watch.
Anything you can do, but they go back to the same one every time. It's just like, it's like a highway. They just go back to the same trails. You can keep going. That's just another picture of the crawl.
Put that endangered tortoise out there.
This is another crawl. Yeah, right?
Confiscate the ranch.
This crawl right here is almost within view of the headquarters of TBV, that little headquarters shack that I showed you before. And it's right on their property. It is right on the road, the driveway into the Vickers Ranch. That's how close this traffic is.
That's the one I was watching when the coyote came to my position.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, this is
Coyote, do you mean animal?
the smuggler, human
He's a
smuggler.
smuggler. The guy is illegal.
Okay, oh Lord, I see the law.
He's the runner. The two-legged coyote. This is another view of the headquarters, and I think I might even, you can keep going, you might even see some pictures in here. I took pictures of the cars because they come from all over the United States, guys. When these volunteers come in, they're coming in from Ohio, Florida, New York, Wisconsin, Nebraska. They come down for the weekend. These are not all Texans. Go ahead.
Is this an every weekend event?
No, it is not. So I wanted to show all the different cars these people have come in. Now they can sleep in tents out there. You can sleep in the bunkhouse, men only. There's one guy who's converted a regular trailer into his bunkhouse, and he's got a fan and he's got a little cot, and he can roll his ATV up in there, roll it out at night. Oh, there's Iowa. I wanted you to see Iowa's in the house.
Where's Minnesota?
You can keep going. That's Doc Vickers, that's the back of his head. I took some pictures of the tents out there because there were some brave individuals like the Hulls that don't mind really, really roughing it. I was sleeping in a horse trailer my second trip out there, and it was pure luxury. It really was. I loved it. It was cozy. This is us. Okay, now here, this is where we're going to start getting into some pictures. Doc Vickers has these pictures that he takes to Austin and Washington, D.C. When he was not invited, when Mary and I both spoke at the Senate hearing, he was not invited as a speaker. If you're invited to testify, you're given unlimited time. Why he was not invited, I'm sure, was a deliberate oversight, because they all know who he is, and Senator Hinojosa from Falfurrias area sits on that Homeland Security panel, and he did not invite Doc. So Doc only had a chance to take out like 1 or 2 pictures, but he showed the majority of them to us. This is a picture of a pregnant female. She's coming here to have her anchor baby. In fact, there's a couple of pregnant females there. You see the one in the gray and the one next to her. You can go ahead and keep flipping through. This right here is a truck full of dreamers coming here for an education. These are all young people coming up here for school. Go ahead and keep flipping through. Okay, I should have warned you. I didn't realize we were going to jump to that. The next few pictures, folks, kind of looks like scenes from The Walking Dead. These are bodies that our ranchers find on their lawns and on their property. All of these pictures are pictures of bodies that Doc Vickers and Linda Vickers have found on their property. This is why we call it a war zone. This is why when Senator Jose Rodriguez starts chewing me out on the panel for using the word, he objected to my use of the term invasion and war zone, and I pushed back. I said, he's like, you can't carelessly throw those words around. They're inflammatory. And I said, no, I use those words deliberately because they are the most accurate representation of what our farmers and ranchers have to live through. His oath requires him to care more about Texans than he does about the illegal traffic coming over the border, and it's clear he's got his priorities out of whack. So if you don't want to see, some of the pictures are gruesome, but you need to know why a war zone is the most accurate term for what you're about to see.
And I just want to interject, it only takes 2 or 3 days for a body to decompose in the heat in the desert.
Oh, yeah.
And they lose the eyes pretty much right away because there's a bird, the caracara, and they take the eyes. So this body has not necessarily been there very long.
Just a day or 2.
So what do you think, that maybe he went against the cartel?
No. They're left out there if they get sick, if they slow down, if they're abandoned, or if they run out of water. A lot of them, you will see next to the dead bodies, you'll see a lot of empty water jugs. It's exposure. Some of them are beaten. You're going to see some females. And I don't want to think of what happened to them before they died, but if they were left there to die for a reason. So I'm sorry, what you're about to see, that's your warning. That's your content warning. Okay, go ahead. Oh, there's the best team, y'all. That is is Elsa, Blitz, and Schotten, and little Tinkerbell over there in the corner, who is she's the muscle of the group. Elsa's the mama, and Blitz and Schotten are her, which are German for lightning and thunder. And they are amazing, and they will take off like a shot. They know exactly what they're doing. They have their own statistics that Linda keeps.
Tinkerbell stole my coffee creamers.
She's very aggressive. If she wants what you have, she knows how to get. She'll hit you with her head, and her head is like 50. It's like getting hit with a bowling ball.
Oh, she pinches half the guys out there.
Yeah.
They love Mexican.
Go ahead. Okay, here's another group of potential students for the UT system. Right there. See, they've all got their water jugs.
Bottom of my cabinet.
They've all been zip tied together. Keep going. Here's some more potential students for the UT school system on your tax dollar.
Go to that last picture. Those were Guatemalans. Because they're not sitting down. A Guatemalan will not sit on their rump on the ground.
Kneel.
Oh, really?
You know why?
Culture. This is culture.
All right, the next is a lady who was abandoned at some point. See the empty water bottle? She's not been dead, but for a few hours. Go ahead. There's another one. This is see. Okay, look at the sign. See the sign right there?
Yeah.
That's ringing their yard. And these are all this is inside their front yard. This is like if you came out of your little suburban home and found this in your front yard. This is what they
I have
experience.
a neighbor that has a ranch that butts up against this.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, this is showing a cartel tattoo. This guy that's been caught is obviously not here as an act of love, as Joe Bush would have you believe. What they're doing is they're showing his prison tattoo. And I believe this one is a pistolero, I believe. That's what is tattooed on his chest.
But you can see he's kneeling as well. He was not sitting.
What's a pistolero?
Pistolero is a cartel gang, a prison gang. Bad dudes. Go ahead. This is what, these are some pictures that they've taken out there. These guys have backpacks, that means they're drug mules. And that area right there is the crawl that he was watching before, right in front of the headquarters, right there in front of the house.
Why do these people keep machine guns out there?
Oh, he's been there a little while.
For less than a week.
This is a boy, he was about 12 years old, and he was found out there as well, abandoned. And this is probably not long after he expired. Again, we're looking at not more than a couple of hours. There's some of your Chinese. More scenery in the front yard. Again, the water bottle, the ubiquitous water jug.
Now, what do they do with these bodies when they find them like this?
That's a very good question. The Brooks County has to test it, process the bodies. They have to process so many that their tiny little county budget, because their coroner has to be paid for the tax. Yeah, their taxes have to pay for it. The coroner can't handle the traffic. This kind of analysis.
$3,000 an autopsy.
Yes. And
Well, they have to DNA type them as well.
right. And all of that's paid for by the county. So what has happened is they had Baylor University come down and donate a lot of the analysis and autopsies of these, and they had to pull in resources from other counties. But Brooks County, which is a tiny little county, and they're losing population, which means they're losing tax base. Guess who's buying up their properties out there? Probably the cartels through third-party purchasers. But they are the ones that pick up the tab, and that's why they're so. And they're not a border county. The border counties, their sheriff's department, they get a lot of support because of their status as a border county. Because they're one county in and they're 70 miles off the border, but still within that non-constitution zone, that 100-mile non-constitution zone, they don't get the kind of money that the border counties get. So they have one sheriff with 3 deputies, and they've all had to take a 20% pay and cut because their taxes can't even support that much.
I posted an article on Facebook today, Brooks County is looking at filing bankruptcy. They've had to cut their health insurance from their deputies, who are now basically only making minimum wage. And they have, the 4 of them have to cover the whole county.
Wow.
Now compare that to like my county, Galveston County, we've got over 500 sheriff's deputies in Galveston County. And they do a lot with drug traffic and smuggling and stuff. I mean, they get the end result of all of this traffic, but compare the numbers to the 4 Lone Rangers out there in Brooks County. You can kind of see how they are outmanned, outgunned, out-resourced by the cartels.
Yeah.
Puts it into another perspective. You're talking really about Lone Rangers. All right, keep going.
You do have a Galveston County fire stream up there.
I know.
Yeah.
Why don't you start posting these on Facebook? Like
They're on my Facebook
Like take them to
page.
Hinojosa's page and post them on his page.
Senator Hinojosa knows exactly, he's seen all these pictures.
And they ought to take the bodies and dump them in his office.
Yeah.
You know?
No, Senator
Rodriguez, I'm sorry, Rodriguez, yeah.
These are all women that were, I don't want to think of what their last hours were like. Okay, this is an impound lot of the vehicles that are taken from the coyotes or the smugglers, and they're all impounded here. And this is right there by Falfurrias, and there's just hundreds.
Big action dog, man.
So
Yeah, they should auction it off to help pay the expenses.
they do.
They eventually do that.
This is again, this is on their property. This is I think it's over there by one of their water holes or something.
It is the tower.
Yeah, the tower there. He just sat down on a bench and on the stairs and died. Okay, you remember all that trash I showed you before? This is what it looks like when the ranchers have to go out and clean it up themselves. I don't know where the EPA is. I don't know where the TCEQ is, but nobody seems to care that the smuggling pathways and trails are an ecological disaster. And so apparently they only care if the turtle or the chicken or the lizard is in peril. They don't worry about the humans. Forget about the humans. Keep going. All right, you heard Dale talk about this. They found an Urdu dictionary, and it was Urdu to Spanish and Spanish to Urdu. So they had phrases that they could translate from. And Urdu is spoken in Pakistan and Afghanistan. They would know how to say something in Spanish, and there were some pictures in there where the guys' heads were down. They don't want to lift their heads to show their complexion or to make eye contact. They don't want to speak, but when they do, they have some broken Spanish that they can use to make it seem like they're Spanish. That's at the house there. This house is right up the road.
That was one of the things that was actually taught in that class, was that Hezbollah has actually worked out a deal with the Zetas, that they send their people down there, they set them up with the Mexican paperwork and teach them Spanish. When they come up, if they do get caught, they just pretend they're Mexican because this gets sent back to Mexico.
Hezbollah is very, very well entrenched with the cartels, as is Hamas. That was my section of the, and if you want to learn more about that, you can go to my archives at Raging Elephants Radio, because we did an entire class on Hezbollah, we did another entire class on Islam in general in Texas. Okay, keep going. This is us. I don't know what I was thinking. When we jumped out, now just so you know, when you're looking through a thermal camera and it's pitch black, anything that has retained some heat just glows like a bright white light. When you're talking about the adrenaline rush, you really feel like at a distinct advantage, because you can see them and they can't see you. But they are getting outfitted with night vision and thermal, the coyotes are. So, because remember, they're very well funded. Okay, Mary talked a little bit about the disposition of, this is us going out, we're posting out, it's called posting out. All the teams go out on ATVs and they range far and wide. You have specific postings that you go to. That way when you call in your radio signal, you call in your call sign, you call in what you see, and Dale explained, it's not exactly the number because you don't want them to know that you've got eyes on them. So you will call into base, and nobody calls border patrol except base. Only base does. He is the one that coordinates all of the movement.
And not only do we disguise their numbers that we're seeing, but we also disguise the direction that they're headed. We'll say they're going Kansas, or Florida, or Louisiana east, or Arizona, or Texas. And
that'll tell you which way they're moving. If you say they're moving to Nebraska, they're moving from, like at one point we said Louisiana to Phoenix, or Louisiana to Arizona, that means he knows which direction the group is moving. Then and he's looking at his map, he can say, okay, if they're moving from east to west, I know that they're going to show up in the jurisdiction of the very next group that's posted up. So it's very well organized. I mean, it operates akin to a military operation, because they need to know where everybody is at all times, and then we can report the traffic. So the next few pictures are just of the teams. I'm sitting there, we had opened the gate. The first team through opens the gate, you stand there, the other teams come through. You can keep going through those. Everybody is geared up. You can see they're not going to be very visible at all out there. And I just took pictures of them to show all of them coming through the gates.
So do y'all have to provide your own ATVs?
Most of the guys do. They do have, in fact, this is where we invite people who have, they don't have the time or the ability to go out and post on a watch or join Texas Border Volunteers as an actual border watcher. But we do request donations because that goes towards the equipment, the ATVs, the night vision, and the thermals. This was given to me by one of the guys because I was riding in the ATVs and it's extremely dusty and it kicks up a lot of dust, and they're like, you don't have a face mask? I was like, no. He's like, oh, I got the perfect one for you. So he went and got me this.
I just went to a quick story. When we went in March, some of the guys were wearing this mask when they were out on the ATVs around the rest area. Well, they found some CTs walking out on the road, and they intercepted them actually out on the highway. But they were wearing this mask, and I'm telling you, the women that they apprehended fell to the ground and they were praying. I mean, they thought they were the Walking Dead.
But don't forget, they have their Dia de Muerta, and they have Day of the Dead, and they have a lot of superstition around the dead. So that I wanted to show. There's my radio. Got my radio. I have it normally up here on the sleeve, like where Dale demonstrated. I've got my TVV hat on, and of course here I am attired appropriately. This is not my first rodeo. You can tell. Go ahead. Oh, just a couple more of the teams coming through. That's my happy face. I'm so happy to be out there. I'm so proud of these guys. I just am so grateful that this has become a part of my life. You can keep going. You don't need to look at my ugly. We're back to the beginning. Actually, I think, is this, okay, that should have been it. That was pretty much it. I think this is something that I said changed my life from focusing on policy. I can debate political policy all day long. I'll go up to Senator Rand Paul. I will go up to Sarah Palin. I wanted Sarah Palin to come down. Governor Perry even was on. I played audio of him today on my radio show defending the act of love gibberish that was coming out of Jeb Bush's mouth. Because he's like, I understand why these people have to break laws to feed their families. Dude, you are the highest executive officer in Texas. It is your job to uphold the rule of law. And he's sitting there saying, well, I understand why they do it. Well, your job is not to understand. Your job is to execute the law. And it made me realize that the two conversations should never merge. When you're talking about immigration policy, what you're talking about are the magnets that attract this traffic. And you'll hear from the Vickers that the traffic is exploding right now. They have not seen this level of traffic in years, and it's because of the promise of the Texas solution. Amnesty. All of this is going to be coming up. They're going to have this battle on the floor when it comes to the Republican convention coming up in June. We'll be there to report on it.
I'll be there to fight it.
He'll be there to fight it, and I mean, I'm not a delegate. I'll be there for Raging Elephants Radio, though, and Texas Border Volunteers will be there. So this is, the magnet aspect of it is the policy side of it. That's when you start dinking around with these politicians. They always want to talk about work visas. They want to talk about anti-sanctuary cities or pro-sanctuary cities. They want to talk about this policy. But when you see pictures like that, is there any doubt left in your mind that this is life and death?
Oh.
On a daily basis, it's life and death for our fellow Texans that live out there in this war zone. And it should, based on what Mary told you about the hubs around Texas, they'll tell you the cartels have established corporate headquarters. Organized crime, transnational criminal organizations have now established corporate headquarters in every major city and mid-sized town in Texas.
Well, you know, the MS-13 has taken over Bel Air in Houston. That's a very very nice neighborhood.
MS-13 is one of the most brutal gangs.
Salvadorian, brutal.
They're the ones that do the beheadings and
And good-sized towns like Lake Jackson?
oh, I'm sure there's got some.
Pearland?
I'm sure.
You know, you found a safe house in Pearland.
Yeah.
There's gotta be much more there.
You even got houses.
Something I've been trying to get people to talk about for about 4 years, and I've tried to get politicians to talk about it. I set up a little Facebook page. Of course, I sent it to all the politicians in the last presidential, well, all the ones that were supposed to be on our side in the last presidential cycle. I set up a little Twitter thing a while back, but it's about civil rights inside Mexico. This scumbag Called It On came up and was having a little kiss-in with Obama up in Wisconsin or somewhere a few years ago, and he was harping at Americans and lecturing us about the civil rights of these poor illegal aliens. Okay, I understand their human rights, but they don't have any civil rights here. Why in the hell, in somebody in our idiotic political shitholes, why won't anybody raise hell with the government of Mexico about the civil rights of their citizens? Of course, I know that, the Chamber of Commerce doesn't want to get in trouble with
Above
their
brought their president in to talk to our Congress.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And I've tried to get Michael Berry to pick it up, and George, a while back, I put that on the chat wing when George was talking about, what about civil rights inside Mexico? And he said, yeah, there's an idea.
These
But that's something that everyone used to be raising hell about.
These ladies will tell you, forget Washington D.C.
Oh, I know.
It's Texas, you gotta make your stand.
I know, that's what I'm saying, is that you can't get these idiot scumbag politicians to even talk about it. We've got to get people at this level raising hell about it and start putting pressure on those worthless bastards in those legislative offices, about that issue.
And something that I saw in the news, yesterday, did you see they're burning aborted fetuses in Oregon that they're bringing in from Canada for energy?
For fuel?
Yeah. Oh. In Oregon. Have you heard any uproar anywhere?
No.
What about the one in London?
Yeah. And they even talked about that a little bit on the news. But in Oregon, they're bringing bodies down from aborted fetuses from Canada and burning them for energy. What kind of country do we have? Nobody cares about anything. Everyone is so numb. So, I don't know what kind of noise we have to make.
What you're talking about when it comes to the politicians, while they want to talk all day long, the guys who are actually doing something about it are the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And that includes the Texas Border Volunteers. And when you get down there, you really have a sense of the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike.
Yeah.
but damn it, at least you're doing something. You're no longer just talking about it. That was probably the biggest draw for me, is I have been debating and writing about and talking about immigration policy till I'm blue in the face. And debating it, and it was when I got down there I felt, you know what, stop the talking, I'm doing now. And now I'm doing something that helps. It may not look statistically huge, but for the people that you do actually end up apprehending, it does make a difference. There might be girls, like the two girls that were on the ground with an older guy, creepy older guy. They may have just been saved from a life of sex slavery. They were in their early 20s, and he looked like he was at most. So for some, it makes a difference. Now, what happens after they're turned over to ICE, unfortunately, now we know that ICE is not even allowed to do their jobs. They're not even allowed to deport anymore. So the situation is dire, and you can't trust a political solution to a security military problem. This is a national security, a state security problem, and you cannot solve it with work visas and more magnets and political discussions. The only ones that count are the ones that actually get stuff done.
Okay, with the convention coming up, is there going to be some sort of organization for coming out against this during the convention? Because right now, I know in ST11, we've got 34 delegates going up there that are out of Tea Party.
So Tea Fire and some other groups, yeah, we're going to be coalescing about
We need to
this.
do that prior to getting up there.
Yeah.
And the Tea Parties have a pavilion up there that all like-minded folks can come, and depending on what they're doing, because it's not going to be a stand-up fight. They've already rigged what they want. We will have to go stick in the spokes to stop it.
Well, it's that week before when they're doing all of the committee work, that's when it's going to go in. And so delegates get there and vote, it's already there.
And then at that point, they just use procedural gameplay to make it happen. We've seen in both conventions where there is a clear vocal majority that is saying nay, and they're like, the ayes have it. And you're like, are you deaf? You know,
At the national convention.
you saw that, and that's how they use procedural, parliamentary type of maneuvers to get their way, even against the will of the people. So everybody who is going to the convention needs to go pretty much loaded for bear. I mean, you have to know this is going to be a fight. They just put Commissioner Patterson onto the actual platform committee. Last year, he was allowed to speak, though no one who is not a delegate should be allowed to speak from the floor. They broke the rules to allow him to speak, and he is the one that really hammered home, including the Texas solution as a plank in the Republican platform, which it is there now. Now, just to safeguard this issue, because this is a huge Republican betrayal, they want to not only solidify the Texas solution, but to expand on its language and on its gratuitous BS. And so now they've got Patterson to sit on that committee. He will be there to
He's a gatekeeper, he's a nasty man,
he fights dirty.
Well, and you're seeing it nationally, because you're seeing Rand Paul and Hastert and all of these guys all around the country calling for this. You know, so they're trying to make it a done deal nationally.
So, any other questions?
Yes, do you have information for us to go to a website?
Yes.
Volunteer, donate?
TexasBorderVolunteers.org. Please go to their Facebook page. They have a Facebook page. Like the page. That's going to keep you apprised of a lot of what happens with Linda and the best team, the dogs. And then TexasBorderVolunteers.org has more pictures, more video. You can see what the thermal images look like. A lot of their thermal cameras, or a lot of their thermals have cameras attached so they can record what it is that they're seeing, and they do that for their protection as well. But again, it goes back to what Dale was saying. This is what we do. We are there to observe. We are there to be witnesses to this travesty and to bring the word to citizens like you so that you know the truth of it. Because when politicians talk about it, it will not bear any resemblance to what you just saw on that screen. Those dead bodies, the impounded vehicles, the sheer numbers, just the sheer volume is so overwhelming. And remember, we've got a 1,200-mile international border that we share with Mexico. And it is one section. This is one county. This is a couple hundred square miles compared to the vastness of a 120-mile international border. Oh, one more thing is that with Border Patrol being told to stand down, should there be any aggressiveness shown from the cartels or from the coyotes or the criminal trespassers, the Border Patrol is told to fall back. Common sense wise, just you guys knowing common sense, what do you think will happen now that that word has gone out? It's public knowledge.
You're gonna be aggressive.
You are going to see an uptick in violence because they know if they come on strong, if they come on aggressive, the Border Patrol has to back up. That is their new rules of engagement. What have those rules of engagement done for our military in Afghanistan? 5,000 dead because of new rules of engagement enacted in 2009. 5,000 dead, when up to that point, all those years in Afghanistan, 2,000 died in combat. Since Obama changed the rules of engagement, 5,000 more, just in that shorter time frame.
I'll tell you this, I ain't taking a knife, a beating, or a bullet for nobody, because ain't nobody telling me to stand.
I went and looked on Texas Border Volunteers website, and they had several pictures of what they termed as rape trees. Did you all see any of those in your stories?
We heard the stories.
We did not see.
We didn't see a rape tree, but they have those,
They got near dumpsters.
but they have these areas where they all gather, and of course you saw some of the bodies, and some of the women were missing their clothes. You saw the one lady, all she had on left were panties. I mean, she's not out there wandering around in the desert in her panties. Somebody, you know what happened to her. You don't like to think about it, but yeah, we've heard the stories.
Is TVB considered a militia, or is it affiliated in any way with militias?
No.
Just trivia question.
Just a nonprofit volunteer organization in good standing with DPS and Border Patrol and the sheriffs. There are other groups that are starting to burgeon. In fact, there is, there are some disagreements on operations. And you've got some military guys with military background have disagreements on operations, and so we'll have to see how that shakes out. But the rules that we follow are very strict, and it has kept TVB in good standing. There has not ever been anybody who has fired a shot in fear or in anger. So at this point in time, it is very much well regarded.
That's only because they all have two pair of pants on.
So we need your support. There are people joining all the time. The only reason they have to keep their roles down, when people apply to join, Vic applied after Mary and I did our first co-hosted show the day we got back that Monday. I had Mary on my show, Raging Elephants Radio, to talk about our experiences, and Vic joined up right after that. He's not here tonight, or he would have added his stories to the mix. Other people have heard the stories and they have joined. The problem is we need more and more volunteers, but our volunteers are outpacing our equipment. And so, because if we can't outfit a team properly with thermals, night vision, ATVs, transportation, we can't put them out in the field. They can't post out.
Right.
So that's where a lot of the money that comes into, none of it goes to any overhead. It goes directly into the equipment that support the operations.
How many times a year do y'all do this? I'm sorry.
That was me.
Not quite every month, but their schedule has to remain as, they don't post their schedule because they don't want the cartels to know when they're going to be out there. Eventually they know we're out there. They hear the radio traffic, they see the vehicles, but they don't, in fact, they tell you when you're coming into town, don't walk around in your camo. When you're at the hotels or at any of the restaurants, don't talk about it, don't even wear your t-shirt. You know, you're just the new face in town. They don't even want you
Check,
to.
if anyone asks you, you're just checking out a deer block.
Yeah. So they just want to keep the operations under wrap, but they have several, they're usually weekend operations, and then they have a couple of extended. They have one that's